Hi, welcome to Day of Destruction TV. We are here at the Siamstore Hamburg with our guest, Mr. Sean Douglas, who just hosted a Muay Thai workshop here together with Gerardo Atti. I myself participated in this workshop. It was very insightful and fun, so thank you for sharing your knowledge.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sean Douglas is one of the original guys going from the West to Thailand and studying Muay Thai there. Furthermore, he is a pioneer in bringing MMA and establishing it in Southeast Asia, especially Thailand. And he is as well the founder of various Muay Thai gyms, including the special or famous Tiger Muay Thai and MMA gym in Phuket. How are you, Mr. Douglas?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. You are a lifelong martial artist and studied various fight sports and martial arts like boxing, wrestling, Okinawa Jiu-Jitsu, karate, knockdown karate. So how did you decide to pick up Muay Thai and train it to a level where you are able to compete in Lumpini Stadium?
Well, at first, I was in the Marine Corps. I was in the military, and I had a lot of exposure to the martial arts. That's where I was doing a lot of my training. And when I decided to get out of the military, I came back to my hometown and wanted to establish a gym. And I was quite young. I was 23 years old. So the gym wasn't really, the idea wasn't to make money. It was to get a network going so that I had people to train with. The area I came from didn't have very traditional martial arts. So when I came back, I had already had experience with knockdown karate and the low kicking, and I had been in Okinawa and back. So it was very hard to find training partners. So I established a gym to create more training partners. There wasn't many platforms to compete back then. So we had to go to Indian reservations or kind of offbeat places to compete. And, Thailand was always in my mind. These guys were the best at kickboxing, and I'd heard, especially my weight class was very competitive. So the original trip to Thailand wasn't necessarily to go live and fight there. I felt that it was necessary for me to go there and learn so that I could bring back more information to the gym. I didn't feel like my style was necessarily complete. I had some great coaches, but that was what inspired me for the first trip to travel and pack up. The first trip was only 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks planned, and it turned into a very long stay.
Yeah. How do you compare living, training and fighting in Thailand compared to the US? And did it change you as a person on perspective on martial arts?
It absolutely changed me 1,000,000%. As far as the training went, I was completely overwhelmed and blown away with the work rate. In the States, we did an hour to an hour and a half of very intense training. That was typically the training. You're running, your classic like boxing work, but when I arrived in Thailand, these guys start out with a 12K run, and that's just the warm-up. And then they arrive in the gym, and there's endless amounts of pad work, and the sessions go from 3 to 4 hours back then for a morning session, and then again in the afternoon for around 3 hours to 4 hours, depending if someone was set for a program to fight. So that was the first thing I thought, how can I ever compete in this place? There's no way. I would go into the gym and I would get half of the morning session together. I'd be lucky to get an hour for the evening session, and I thought, maybe this just isn't for me. There's no way I'm going to be able to reach that level. And over time, you start to change and develop, and then pretty soon you're getting closer and closer to what these guys could do. But that was the first big difference that I experienced living there. And also the culture, very different culture. My mentality was very different. I come from gyms where you got to be a tough guy, nobody smiles, you don't talk to this team, you don't talk to those guys. And then I'm sitting in the back of a pickup truck with guys going to the fight. They're all just kind of happy, smiley. They go into the stadium, they sit down, they watch the fights. And for me, it was when I got to the training or the stadium, I needed to be in the locker room, I needed to get my hands wrapped. These guys change, like, no, Sean, sabai, relax, relax. So that was a very different approach. And I realized later how important it was to save my energy, to not get so caught up in the hype of fighting. These guys fight for food. They fight for their family. A a lot of us in the West fight for glory, for trophies, for recognition. So I started to change my mind, and it took a lot of the burden away from me, the anxiety I had to compete, because I thought, oh, this guy is just like going to play a game of football. So the approach to fighting was so different, it changed me drastically.
Yeah, sounds like a totally different experience and totally different world down there.
Sure, absolutely. You know, usually when you compete in Thailand, you're literally getting warmed up in the same area. Your coach is there, their team is there. We sit in a chair or a stool while we're waiting to get called up to the ring. So we're very close to each other. Whereas in the States or other places, there's a blue corner and a red corner. And these guys are, you know, there's so much energy spent, I think, on all this kind of bravado that the Thais don't carry into the ring, that they perform much nicer, much better.
So at one point you got the idea of opening a gym in Thailand. You opened Tiger Muay Thai and MMA.
Yes.
So did you always plan to go the MMA route, and how did you come up with the idea of opening a gym there? And how was the MMA scene back then in Thailand?
Well, originally there was absolutely no MMA in Thailand. And I was fortunate enough in the Marine Corps to have a coach named Tommy Mossman. And he was a guy that was already mixing styles. We called it Okinawa Te, but he actually came from a more traditional lineage. And he broke off because he wanted to add judo, jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu at that time. Brazilian jiu-jitsu became very popular later. But the origins. So we were doing a lot of like what you see the early K1 guys doing. The knockdown karate, then it would transition to a throw, and then a little bit of groundwork. So I had some exposure to that. We were already developing it. It was early in the days of MMA. And when I arrived to Thailand, I had a decent base. I also trained with Helsing Gracie, the guy that trained Hoist for the first UFCs, and Tony Waldecker, who is an amazing jiu-jitsu coach. So these people came in my life. I was already starting to fuse styles.
Yeah.
So when I arrived to Thailand, I went for the Muay Thai, but I realized, wow, all these great athletes, the Thais, their heart is just unbelievable. It's a warrior culture. And I thought, wow, they don't have the ground. What if you took these guys and trained MMA and brought them to the UFC? The best strikers on the planet. I had never seen strikers all around the world, even Japan and good boxers. There was nothing like the Thais. And I thought, okay, this might be an opportunity for me to stay here. There was never a plan to open a gym. There was none of this going on. I was just fighting and learning, and organically I ran into a couple of people that wanted to invest, and I thought, okay, this would be a great way to stay, also continue to learn, and bring mixed martial arts here so that fighters could come, learn their striking, but also continue to keep their jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and everything on point. Also the environment, the climate. I've seen people training for Ironman, 100-run marathons, all these kind of elite athletes, because the climate in Phuket was perfect for this type of conditioning, and the expenses were very low. So in the States, you know, a lot of my guys have to roof, construction jobs, go train part-time, fight. They could never really give themselves to fighting 100%. And I thought, wow, this is pretty amazing. You know, I can bring people here, house them for very cheap. They can live out their dream, they can fight. And as you know, in Thailand, there's plenty of fights. 4 nights a week, there's fights going on here, so the experience could be quite great. So that's where the idea stemmed from. And I thought, what will make my gym different? And I didn't also feel very comfortable as a Westerner focusing on Muay Thai, because I had tons of Thai people around me that are far more advanced. So it was like a very good way to recruit trainers that I wanted to learn from. And that was when I planted the seed for Tiger Muay Thai. I found 2 investors. They were interested. They were not martial artists. One had trained a bit. I met him in the gym. Both of them were training, but not very serious. More for fitness and, you know, recreation. And they thought, wow, what's this crazy guy? Westerner living here in Thailand. I was making very little. I was fighting for very little money, and we started to talk about developing the gym. And that's how it came about, the gym, Tiger.
So all this was a great idea. You can see how popular MMA is nowadays to train in Thailand.
It's unbelievable. When I planted the seed, I really thought that it would become popular, but I had no idea that this soy would become Soy Tiger. And many people have established their fight career and life through this idea in gym. I had multiple UFC fighters, Bellator, Glory, I mean, anyone you can name has been through the gym and have opened their own gyms through this process. So.
With all your experience, what would you recommend a young upcoming fighter how to structure his career when he wants to compete at the top level at one point?
I really believe to compete at that level, you have to go to a place like Thailand, somewhere that's affordable, or you have to have very good sponsors, right? You have to have people that are going to support you. Because, you know, to hold 2 jobs and do it part-time, you're always going to just get so far. And as you know, the Thais do it to eat, so it's a part of their life. So moving to a country where it's affordable, you have qualified instructors, and it's very important for the people you find in your life to manage your career. As we know, boxing and Muay Thai can be garnished in rough characters and the business side, so it's very important to have a good relationship with that person that will manage your career, and the right coaches around you, and of course the right environment like Thailand, so you don't have to think about your gas and light bill and your car payments and all these things. You know, simplify your life, make it very simple so that you can dedicate yourself to this craft, and I believe you can. The sky's the limit.
Great tips for young fighters out there.
Stay away from drugs, alcohol, girls. Make sacrifices. A lot of guys don't want to sacrifice the things that the old guys did before. There's just a lot of access. But if you go back, you know, with the Thai kids, they're literally in a compound and they're almost married to that gym. And yes, they do lose a lot of life and experience with like playing and girls and experimenting with things. But I feel like if you're very serious about the sport, you're willing to sacrifice that for this part of your life. And when you're done, you have all this time to catch up and play.
Yeah. You're doing lots of interesting projects, from working with movie stars to coaching UFC guys. So what are you up to currently, and what can we look forward to in the future from you?
Now my main projects are dealing with fighters, but on a very personal, private. As you know, Tiger and some of the other gyms became very popular, and with anything it becomes commercial. It's very hard to hold the quality. And my approach isn't just money driven. I really love this, so now the direction is smaller, kind of go back in time and give the experience to the people that I experienced when I arrived in Thailand, you know, 20 plus years ago. Very different experience. So now I'm working on retreats where I host several retreats a year where I bring people out. I give them sort of a behind the scenes look at Muay Thai. They get to meet some of the Golden Era guys that I'm affiliated with from back in the Golden Era. So a lot of that doesn't exist anymore. Muay Thai is changing rapidly. So my focus is on these projects, and I also have a fight camp in Singapore, which is Thai boys that we're helping develop and also give them a better life after boxing. And Koh Samui, where I'm based, is a very exclusive private camp, invite only, or affiliate gyms that work with me can send their boxers out, and they're going to get more focus on the training instead of being in a gym with 300 tourists coming in for different reasons.
This makes a big difference.
I believe so.
And focusing. Wish you all the best with your projects. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
We are Destruction TV. Tune in for more interesting content. We are out.